Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Darksiders 3. So we got the final hollow so we can do the final part of the void. And theoretically, I think I don't want to bother to run around trying to get all the collectibles we may have missed until we're either just like completely finished with the game or almost completely finished with the game, or they give us some kind of magnet. Now noticeably, there's this gate that just stops you unless you have the ability, but you would think it would be more logical to simply force the player to go into this mode and use the transition ability at this point right here against these walls to get up high enough to go further. But no such luck. In the last recording, we did have a lot of... We had a big boss fight with Gluttony, and that really just highlights, I think, why in most games, and particularly in Darksiders games, there's not a ever good experience around I don't think I've done that charged attack before. Yeah, there just really is never a good experience against fighting big monsters. The only game that I can even start to think about actually potentially does have somewhat of a good experience there. And look, we see a collectible that I could go back and try and find. Is like the God of War series. I would say that series, by having a lot of cinematic attacks, and this is coming from somebody who actually hasn't played the God of War series, so I'm talking only based on my observations, my extremely limited observations of other people playing the game. But if the game is the way I think it is, there's a lot of big monsters you fight, and in the God of War series, and it's fairly cinematic, and I didn't realize these guys were gonna jump. I thought I was gonna be relatively safe over here. But even in the God of War series, it's worth mentioning that you're very often not actually fighting at the end, and instead just pressing like quick time button events. Well, almost feels like you could get up there. Is there possibly a collectible on top of each of these? No, I doubt it. That's a possibility, certainly. And I don't like the uncertainty there, that there might be a collectible and there might not. I guess a lot of these statues are literally just designed as a way of having you go into a certain place. Now, this one can use fire attack and this attack. Fire moves the blocks, and the other attack does this. So this is your transition spot to make sure you have at least a fire attack and the ice attack, is what I'll just call it, even though they call it something different. And seemingly we're going to need one here, and we're going to circle around a bunch of times and work our way towards the central hub again. Alright. Well, we can get up here, but there's a gate up here. So that's a shortcut back. We also have water here, so we should run around with our gravity ability and pick up all the collectibles under the water. Because during the ice attack, well, in the ice hollow mode, you'll just walk on water surfaces. I don't think they really intend for you to be able to get to that point. But they're okay with you getting to that point. I don't know if there's really a reason why you couldn't get on that point. It's not going to really help you much. If you just need fire and ice to... if you just need fire and ice to reach this point, that does imply to me that maybe we won't be using any of the wind ability or the gravity ability in what is absolutely necessary to get through this section, and there might be a gravity ability or wind ability that gets us to a extra collectible. And it's fairly clear that the game is a little bit sneakier than I thought it was. So, right. This guy is effectively as big as the final bosses we've been fighting. Almost died there. It does feel like the charged attacks are big enough to that they might have some stasis effect. They're throwing a lot of shooting enemies at me. But yeah, the stasis effect feels like, if it is affecting at all, it is affecting very minimally, just reducing the speed of the characters by maybe 5% at most. The wrath attack seems to slow down people around you, or effectively speed yourself up on your attack, but it too is not a very significant number. Alright. Okay. So this is how you get downward. So you would need the gravity ability, but honestly you would not have any of the abilities anyways. So that's really just a reminder more around the idea of yes, these abilities exist, and yes, you're going to have to actually use them. Remember they exist. Although, oddly, it does come off very much like the only time you really use these abilities is when you are in the void. Any puzzles built around these ideas don't seem to really get used very much outside of the void. And there just aren't enough puzzles in general. So it does give you this feeling of potentially being half finished in that that you almost certainly would run into what am I trying to say here? Like, if this game had more puzzles in it, it would feel like a more finished product, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And of course, that's something you can just always sort of speculate on, and you'll just never really know the truth. These kinds of compromises and decisions get made all the time in video game development. Arguably, I could say that I don't feel like they made the best decisions. But once something starts attacking you, then it's interesting how that enemy just came out of the ceiling. That's the one thing I feel like is fairly cool. As an idea that they have added to this game compared to just mostly copying everything that was in the first game. Most definitely, this is kind of what people wanted. It's what I wanted. A back to basics Darksiders 1 continuation, getting away from what Darksiders 2 was trying to do. There was a lot of people to kill for not much reward otherwise than your standard shards. I still don't feel like I have a full understanding of what the width of a swing is. It kind of feels like they program it. It could be programmed specifically for each swing point, because sometimes it feels like we swing and we're jumping very large gaps, and then it sometimes feels like we swing and we're jumping fairly small gaps, just wide enough gaps to say that show that the player couldn't jump it on their own. We're still in a section, the same section. We've just gone full circle, but we didn't get a ball for that. So this feels like you could use this, and maybe you could, to get back up to this point, which maybe means you could have gotten to this point anyways, but it doesn't really feel like you could get this way. Maybe you can't use this though, because maybe you have to have the opposite side in parallel always. But yeah, if I had just missed that jump, I think I would have had to potentially run through that whole section again. Now we have a checkpoint. What they probably should have done, with more effort and more time and more budget, is have the attack animations vary between 2 or 3 attacks. It's fairly boring at this point to hit X, 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 and basically get the exact same attack sequence. Or get an attack sequence that just feels like the same attack sequences. Even if it is actually varying it up, it doesn't feel like that. Throw some punches in there. Throw an interesting kill. Perhaps do some finisher moves on the characters if their health is somewhat lower. Like, now this is my own fault because I could be pressing the heavy attack, but at least in story mode there doesn't feel like there's a need to play in story with the heavy attacks. And honestly, Fury's only main attribute, I would say, is the fact that she has speed. Like this definitely is, as an example of a character, doesn't feel like somebody that I could line up this attack and charge it and attack it. Now, if there had been a stat to increase speed in the game, like a permanent buff like this to increase speed on top of health, strength, and arcane, then maybe at some point we could double our speed and use the heavy attacks. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And certainly the defending armored enemies of the Void highlight the problem with the button mashing. But even when you're not fighting in the Void, you still run into the problem of there being a lot of enemies that that don't I guess they can be slightly askew as an idea. What is that over there? It looks like there's an orb. Over there, there's an orb over here. Which one do we hit this with? The fire? Okay, that's gonna make an area. Now, and gravity. Yeah, I suppose at a certain level, the Y attacks could have been eliminated completely, and those could have been finisher moves used at the discretion of the gameplay, of the game fighting mechanism. I wonder if I could have just done this from across the area. Alright. I suppose I would ask the question, what would you then expect the Y button to do if it was not a heavy attack in the middle of combat. And I feel like the answer is fairly obvious. A very underused guarding, like we just don't have a guard button at all. Like, let's just double check that. We have a dodge on the right trigger, and they're so focused on dodging. So potentially dodge a second time on the Y button, or a very underused guard where you can just put yourself in the defensive mode pressing Y and use that defensive mode to buy you some time or some breathing room, particularly on these higher levels of difficulty, since I immediately found this game to be too difficult for me. I imagine there would have been some people that could have gotten further on even the balance level of difficulty if they could just buy themselves some time and go into a guard mode. Is that all we're going to do is move a block? Is there any benefit for being on top of that cube? Well, I can't tell. It almost feels like the holes there in the ceiling might be part of some other secret puzzle, or it might be the idea of another part of this puzzle. It may also just be that the holes in the ceiling are designed as markers as to where the blocks would go, but if that was the case, then you'd almost expect there to be markings on the ceilings to indicate where all blocks would go. And that really does establish a precedent that is not followed anywhere else. Alright. Okay. So it almost seems like this block would have had to have been the block that moved up and would have been your elevator block. And this is just taking you out. So let's check this. If I hit this, it moves that block out of the way. I can't get close enough to hit that to potentially see if maybe this would move out of the way. Yeah, I don't see really there being I don't see an entrance secretly being hidden there. So best bet is to proceed forward and see if maybe we wrap around and come back into this room. If not, then we've got some weirdness once again with there being potentially a secret collectible that we can't get or we can't figure out how to get. It almost does give you this feeling that there might be a full just ending to the game. Now you can't go this way while you're holding the ball. You can't double jump. Yeah, it almost feels like at some point you might just get the ability to fly or walk on air in some way. We obviously have a walk on water effect with the Frost Hollow. I guess this now opens up that, moves that higher. I probably didn't reveal anything under the water, though. Although there might be. You never know. There might be some kind of like secret cave door entrance. Of course, I'm being too thorough, really. The other problem is we're running out of health. I guess at a certain level, it is true that I am doing different attacks because the invincibility time frame and dodge attack feature is something that is a different attack. That did not go well, though. I just used my Undying Shard, which at this point I may be running out of Undying Shards. I think I'll just change to the fire mode and see if it feels any different, because in part it doesn't. Yeah. Clang, 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 dash, dodge, attack. Clang some more. Same old, same old. The game seems to now actively be trying to kill me by having enemies jump out of like every wall I walk next to. There are increasing times where I'd like to just kind of run through an area like this, but it doesn't really feel viable that you might be able to do that. That may very well be the first time I've ever been able to do a charged attack and it not hurt me as much as it hurt the other person. I suppose at a certain level this might be a very interesting game to see someone speedrun, just on the fact that you aren't going to be able to just dash through things. Although it could get very annoying when you start to see that somebody is just speedrunning the game doing this the whole time, dashing through things. Which even that's a different dash than when you're locked on to somebody. We've seen a couple instances where you get these swings and it feels like you should be using the swing to go horizontally. There was my undying shard again. You know what? Just jump. Yeah, there's something there. I have no idea how you get to it though. Yeah. Well, I'm out of undying shards and I probably should buy one from the guy while we're here.
Take your time.
2,000, which we could get 2,000 by selling a bunch of healing shards. Notice that we barely have any small healing shards at all as items. I almost want to keep this to see how many future small healing shards we have. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go.
An excellent choice.
Seems like the price just went up by 500 also.
As you
So
wish.
you can't really live off of.
Sure they scream, horseman.
It seems to me like you can't really live off of the undying shards, even in story mode. And that definitely feels like that's something that shouldn't happen in story mode. I'm not gonna make claims that story mode should be 100% no deaths ever, but I do think that there's some reasonableness. This is a really terrible point to die also. These two Juggernaut characters, plus an extra guy, all taking turns to stun lock me. It's not really fair. I guess we now will be forced to find out whether or not you can recover your souls after dying twice in a row. I think the logic would be yes, you can, but I'm not sure the game itself is gonna agree with me. Inherently, if you were gonna just try to avoid walls in this section, I feel like these fights either end up fighting in little corners like this, or knock you into the next area. So just like trying fairly carefully to move past this. Yeah. You cannot get past that enemy. And they're just attacking so strongly. Like, it's an insane amount of damage you seem to be taking. Probably because I'm in the wrong mode. But even when you're in the right mode, it still feels like you're taking an insane amount of damage. And the game itself actively pushes you to be in the wrong mode. Yeah, there's no getting away from this fight. At least that part of it. And then I'm just moving on. I've got my 4,000 souls, which wouldn't have even been a small amount, that much to really lose. But yeah, undoubtedly that is not a fun experience. And that doesn't spell great things as far as what the potential final boss fight is going to look like. Let's see, so if you were to do this, if you don't have another wall to jump against, it's not going to help you. And so the formation I just set up is the wrong formation. I suppose if you were to get rid of the Y strong attacks, you would need a way to activate these orbs a little bit differently, but you could simply have it be that you always have to use shatter to do that, and maybe that would mean you would have to get shatter a little bit earlier in the game, but that really wouldn't change too much otherwise. And half of these puzzles you do have to use shatter anyway, so no big surprise there. Well, what is that? I can't tell if that's supposed to be a whirlwind or something else, but you know what? We'll just use it. Almost fell to my death. Okay. Yeah, there's a lamp up there. We are going quite in a different direction than I was expecting. And I don't know if I'm doing something extra or what. I can only go as far as the glowing purple. Alright. Alright. Was that the right move? No, I don't think it was. That's the right move. And then I guess it just becomes a question as to whether you need to move this up or down in any way. I don't think it changes too much by moving it up. Yeah, if there's any secret here, I'm probably just gonna miss it. Yeah, that's the way this is always gonna boil down to until we get some kind of radar or compass. Those that will... is that if there are secrets, we're gonna miss it. And that may very well have been 100% around just getting some extra collectibles. You would have thought that would have led you to getting the ball. Maybe it did, because this gate's open now. Right. Let's see. Looking up here to see if there's anything to miss. Yep. So it was go down with gravity, then use these to climb up to this point. And then we've got to make a pathway of some sort. Which, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm confused. It looks like they've got sloped surfaces there specifically to show that you're not supposed to be able to jump up in that area. Right. My thought is that, yeah. That ball isn't just going to magically come with me. So there did have to be one of these that has a switch on it. And that's what this is all about, is a little puzzle game of what's face is interactable. And then I bet what I have to do is come back up here and noticeably the swimming's a little slow. I'm pushing the button a lot. Hit this. Okay. That doesn't seem like that does anything. Because the sides that would have been exposed would still be exposed. I think the idea is you're just we're supposed to do this. Let's even go in this mode and then jump and land on this. And then let's go in this mode. And my assumption here is that just landing on the water and walking on the water is acceptable in the frost mode. Now I'm trying to think, is there something we've missed so far in this puzzle? I know we missed something further back that way because we were getting killed all over the place, but I think we may be fairly safe. I feel like this one would also benefit you to have that enabled. Yeah, there's no frost on this side, and I don't think I have a you're not going to go up more than 2 blocks with fire. So we need to hit this first. A little bit of that. And then this. Get a high enough jump to hit that point. Move this out of the way. We don't particularly have to get a very high jump here. This is kind of a great example of where it would be nice if you could lock the camera, or if the game itself would recognize that it needs to lock the camera to really show you where you're going. Alas, the game does not care enough to do that. Maybe I am skipping a step, and that's the problem. Yeah, that very well may be the problem, is that I'm supposed to do this in a different pattern. Although by the time you get over here, you can't really target those things. The angle is awkward, to say the least. Alright, well, Insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, so let's see what happens when we do this. And then this. And then this. That gets you back to this point. If I was at this level, maybe I'm supposed to just jump into that area, but no, we had already done that. Now if I was to jump onto this square, would that do anything for us? I don't think so. You see, by the time you would even get scattered back. So best case scenario, I guess maybe I'm supposed to make the camera look this way and try and center it more. That didn't work. Is there even really another cube that you can move? Do I actually need to come over here and hit him like this? I'm wasting probably time. I guess maybe if there was some more checkpoints, this might be easier to figure out. So I could fire myself up here on that platform. Would that help me any? I don't think so. Yeah, I've veered backwards every time before, so I'm gonna try just this. And it worked that time. And that is what I just call wonkiness. Lack of play testing, more than likely. Or a lack of just polishing. Inherently, you could have added a couple more blocks that might confuse the issue, so don't make them blocks that move, but just have the wall jut out a little bit so that these blocks are actually against the wall and there's no way that you fall in the wrong direction. Or you just program it so that you succeed in the jump if you get anywhere close to succeeding in the jump. The Portal game series, for instance, is actually very unknown for doing that, but actually does it quite a bit, where if you almost shoot a portal in some sequences, you just shoot a portal. It just lets you win, because it's more important in those instances to have a fun cinematic experience than it is to challenge the player to playing perfectly. Generally speaking, it's almost never fun to just challenge a player to play perfectly. And I can't say that I'm not a little scared here, because these boss battles have been frustratingly difficult in the past, and I am concerned that this final void boss battle will be even more difficult. I wanted to see if this bridge moving opened up a path. It didn't. Notice how these bridges are not really designed to let you grab a ledge on them. Almost certainly I needed to hit this with fire first. Yes, that brings that down. Then I need to hit this with that energy. And then I assume this one is already charged with that energy. so it's not 100% necessary, I think, to refill it. So yeah, here they have a correction for the problem I was just having by just having some cubes to keep you in line, and noticeably you don't even really need the cubes to be involved the whole time, they just need to be involved some of the time at the beginning. No monster attacking me here, no monster attacking me there. That's not super surprising, because that would be a very rough place to have a fight where you can fall down the hole. And we definitely saw there was a collectible we missed, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's an angelic core or demonic core or something pretty big in that area that I missed. There's nothing, it looks like, down around here. Okay, so we do see a guy, and I do assume we're going to fight him. I have the one undying shard. And I could wait for the cooldown to potentially do something else. But I'm hoping what happens is that staying in this mode will reduce my damage a lot from his attacks, and switching out of the mode when he tries to suck my life will save me. I'm also hoping that we can just get a fairly large amount of wrath damage at the very beginning, and potentially even use the havoc form when we're about at 3 respites out of 5. Unless, of course, this guy just doesn't talk at all and doesn't attack, and you just get a free victory.
You're a monster of few words, aren't you?
They really are just making a joke on the fact that they didn't want to
skip the pleasantries and go straight to the reckoning.
They didn't want to put a... Oh, he actually attacked this time. Yeah, he does seem like he's moving fairly fast, and I'm going to have to get really good at dodging. I'm also going to have to realize that his attacks are very different. And we'll go ahead and use a respite here. I have no idea what that is, but it looks like it's probably a landmine. He doesn't seem like he's going to be affected by these little landmines. Alright. We'll want our health a little bit lower, I think, but we are getting to the point where Havoc mode should start to be activated. Alright, Havoc mode now. It is weird that the Havoc mode really has proven itself to be more useful in in the fights against these guys than it has been against fights against the 7 deadly sins, which maybe the 7 deadly sins as a concept is not really enemies that I'm super afraid of anyways. I mean, it's not a terrible thought for an enemy set, but these juggernaut creatures have definitely given me a lot more trouble, and they're less scripted events. So we get an achievement for that, and we have the Slice of Scorn. Death in Darksiders 2 definitely had almost exclusively scythe weapons, which also, I suppose, makes a good system, an explanation as to why the weapon system is fairly different in Darksiders 2, and it's more of a MMO style procedurally generated weapons with just extra XP, extra damage. Alright, we didn't use our Undying Soul, but seems like we very possibly here are getting teleported to a final boss battle. Which that might be a nightmare boss battle where we have to fight either 4 of these different hollowed styled monsters or one that switches between different styles.
You have invaded the wrong realm. For that you will pay.
I kind of wish this would just be a cutscene.
Surprise, surprise. It speaks.
It is she who is ravaging our dominion.
Your deception is unbecoming.
Notice that her face is glowing with the ice effect.
Horseman is blind to the deceit by a demon of greed.
Vulgrim.
The notorious aggressor overstayed his welcome and was exiled from the realm.
That slimy bastard.
She before me won't be so lucky. She has caused too much suffering. The horseman is the one who must pay with her life.
I understand. Bring your word.
Alright. So fire mode, gravity mode. Alright, this is gonna be a problem, to say the least. Yeah. And interesting, I was just killed there and it didn't use my undying effect.
The Four Hollows? Oh my! Now we have all it takes to cleanse the serpent holes.
I have. There is no we in I.
Is that a saying?
It is now. Just like if Vulgrim is lying about the serpent holes, I'll wear his hide.
Oh, we are becoming fast friends, aren't we? Let's skip to the final wave of slaughter, clearing the serpent holes and filling your pockets with booty. Or justice, whatever grabs you will.
So we've unlocked the final encounter.
What would you ask of this humble? Please,
So
take your time.
it's not actually a place you
As you
can
wish.
fast travel to. Yeah, I don't really know if I can actually take on the guy. I didn't even lose souls in the final encounter. Arcane Shard, apparently not the thing I was thinking it was. Let's try this again. Let's just lock onto the guy. Yeah, I really have a question as to whether I can actually beat this guy. Like, he is doing massive amounts of damage, and me being in fire mode doesn't really seem like that prevents me from taking fire damage. If anything, I seem to be taking less damage when I'm not in that mode. So is the trick something a little bit crazier where you have to be in a different mode? Look. Yeah, when he just hit me with lightning, that filled my life when I was in lightning mode. That filled my life up. Interesting. But that time it didn't. So did I dodge something? No. What happened is I had died when I was hit with lightning. And my Undying Shard activated. Okay, well, I'm not losing crystals, but I did lose just an Undying Shard. Let's just
What would you ask? Take your
show me
time.
your wares, buy me another Undying Shard.
I knew
And this
you
is just
couldn't
getting more
resist.
expensive each time. Let's
As you wish.
go into
Do make
our collectibles. I'm just not going to be able to fight that guy. I need fairly obviously better armor. And I'm lucky I just made it this far, honestly.
sure they scream.
Okay.
Greetings. Take your time. A wise decision.
3, 4, 5,
An excellent choice.
6. And we probably need a bunch of fragment of adamantiums, but I'll get those in a second. Meanwhile, we're going to the Molten Cave to get back into actually playing the main game now, after having spent a whole bunch of time in the void to just get that extra
What would you ask of this take your time? As you wish. Please take your time.
let's see. Now we want to go to the Maker's Forge and upgrade our weapons and enhancements. See, we now have the final weapon, so there is potentially maybe 12 slivers of adamantium I need to buy to just be done with that. But I want to be certain. Right, yeah. 2 plus 4 plus 6 would be 12 slivers. And then as far as fragments of adamantium, I need 4 plus, I would imagine, another 4 and 6, 14. And then another 4 and 6. So 24. 34, 44. If I'm following the pattern right here. If we at some point also want to get fragments of adamantium higher. Like right now, pieces of adamantium can fix the salvation. We haven't seen any upgrades at all as far as chunks of adamantium, which I have to just assume chunk is the final final item. Okay.
What would you ask? Take your time.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And really at this point it should stop letting me buy any. Noticeably we have stopped getting any pickups of slivers of adamantium in favor of fragments. So I think I was right on the idea that the faster you upgrade your weapons, the faster you'll get more pickup items that can be used to upgrade to higher levels. And there really is no downside to the idea of upgrading your weapons fast. Even if there really is no upside either to upgrading your weapons. Because
What do you need?
very noticeably, only so much can happen. And see, now every weapon should be up to at least +3, because we should have every weapon.
What beautiful havoc you'll wreak with that.
Of course, I'm really just trying here to upgrade everything when it would be a lot wiser to focus on the specific weapons that you're going to use, because I'm not going to use the Scythe of Scion and the Edge of Scion. The Edge of Scorn versus the Scythe of Scorn. So, yeah. I should be just upgrading these bottom 4. Not trying to get these to +4. And I may have upgraded this one to 4 for no reason.
All right.
Although that's not the worst mistake you could possibly make. We have no Essence of Chosen, so we're running out of that. And we're low on angelic artifacts. And we're low on demonic artifacts.
Interesting.
And our setup should be a little bit better. Yeah, I guess more damage is what we want. As far as what is equipped on what. Let's see. So we want to attune to this new scythe instead of that. And then we want to take something that we're not attuned to, which is this, and then we want to unequip that. And then we want to equip this. Like, the Barbs of Scorn here are supposed to be getting me more items when killing an enemy, with more lurchers when killing an enemy with weapons, and that's lurchers in general, compared to this one, which was 20% plus 20 lurchers when breaking objects with the weapon, which, yeah. Some of these, I wish we could organize them a little bit better on the menu. We don't have any more things we can attune or enhancements, so we should find 2 enhancements at some point. As far as consumables, it's really not a lot to sell. We still need a piece of adamantium, a lot of pieces of adamantium actually, and a lot of chunks. But mostly we need better armor. Yeah. Which that might mean very well that we have to defeat the Crucible to have any hope of finishing that final battle. The Darksiders series has in the past had this problem where they are a little bit more interested in having really difficult final battles when that's not really the best experience for a lot of players, particularly people playing in story mode on easy. Particularly, I mean, final battles that are not mandatory in the story. I don't have a lot of concern around yeah, I really don't have a lot of concern around fighting the... See, I'm at 2222. When I hit this with the claws, I'm getting like 20 here, 20 there. But when I was hitting things with the whip, I wasn't getting anything. So these needs to be unsocketed. Then we need to go back to what we were doing, because in most scenarios you will be better off breaking things and getting items from breaking things than you will getting things from killing people. Or maybe not. You know what? I'll just keep an eye on that and see how much we get when we actually kill an enemy. There may be a reason why by default breaking objects aren't giving you anything. See, I'm at 2282 right now. If I come down here and kill this guy, yeah, that gives me a significantly higher amount than 40. 40 souls. Somewhere around 100 or so. So who cares about breaking things? Now, inherently, you still are going to break things. But it's not worth the slowdown in speed to even try and hit a strong attack to do it. There's two pathways, and if I go this way, it's pointing towards the demon. If I go this way, it's not. So that's the direction we're going to go. I'm kind of hoping the game locks me at level 25, just being the max. Obviously, your full level is 42 at the moment, but yeah, I could even see at some point getting really good armor and increasing the health. Or just re-rolling at some point and bumping the health up a lot more. I suppose if my health was closer to 1,000 than 446, you could take twice as many hits, but very often in final battles against giant enemies, the amount of damage you're taking is so high even at that. I don't think that would really help. Is there anything else we need to mention or look at? No, I'm just expecting that I'm hoping I will get a different piece of armor at some point, and that would explain things a little bit better. We have every single weapon. There's zero expectation that we would run into any new weapons. But yeah, overall the game is also getting a little bit grindy. And the Void with its puzzles only helped so much on that, because even in doing that final ice puzzle dungeon or mini dungeon, there was a lot of points where we were just fighting enemies still. They inherently are just not good at level design and puzzle design. And that doesn't spell great news for a Darksiders 4, where I would have hoped that there would have been a little bit more puzzle design and a little bit less fighting. Zelda has kind of an interesting, well, at least the old Zelda games, when you're thinking like something like Ocarina of Time, it in my nostalgia memories of it, it really doesn't feel like you're fighting enemies anywhere as much as you are in this game, or as you would be in even Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild actually has quite a lot of enemies and not any real dungeons, or just small puzzle rooms. And maybe there is a noticeable trend there where people can't make puzzle rooms or can't make puzzles in general, and so they are just filling the games with more and more enemies. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like when I'm getting stuck in these narrow hallways and I'm fighting 4 or 5 creatures at the same time. And I don't like when I'm running through hallways and I'm fighting even 1 or 2 creatures, but then I walk down another 10 paces and I'm fighting 2 more creatures. It's gotten very, very repetitive. Although it hasn't made me hate the game quite yet. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.